I am rip roaring and ready to go Monday through Wednesday, and then I just sink. I would say that it's been the most life-changing shift that's helped me get where I needed to go.
Well, hey guys, welcome back to Goforth&Carnivore. I'm Jordan, and I'm here sharing my real life and real results along the carnivore journey. I'm excited to be here with you guys today because I'm getting to bring back a special friend that we spoke with 6 months ago, back in December. Ian, he shared his story with us, and we've actually gotten to build a pretty good friendship since then. He may say otherwise, but what's funny is we've actually partnered, right? But we've actually partnered together on another podcast called Shaping Student Ministry, one that he was already a part of. And we actually mentioned that in his previous interview. But I'm joining it on this season, and that new season is going to be dropping soon, where we get to talk about the blessings, the struggles, everything in between within ministry. And I hope you guys go there to check that out. But today we are jumping back into Ian's carnivore story. It's been 6 months since we first shared his interview here on the channel, and a lot has happened since then. Back then, and Ian, you correct me at any point, Ian was coming from years of pain, brain fog, inflammation, low energy, and honestly just wanting to feel like himself again as a husband, pastor, and a dad. And now we're 6 months down the road, and I want this conversation to be honest, Ian. Now, I don't want just how much weight you lose. We'll come to that later. Not just the highlight reel, but we're going to talk about what changed, what got harder, and what surprised you most, even when it feels like the progress seems to stall. So we'll get to the scale later, but first I want to talk about the real life side of this. Ian, I know that was a long intro, but thanks for joining me. How are you doing, man?
Man, doing good.
Since we talked earlier today.
I mean, that's fair. We talk a lot, but in the last 6 months or so, it's been really good. I'm doing a lot better, and I know we'll dive into that, but doing well, staying busy, too busy. I feel like everybody right now is too busy, and so I'm trying to be less busy in what I do. But man, doing really, really well. But I also want to I don't want to jump ahead of your prompts, and so because I know that you have a methodical and a good place to move this thing. So as far as my life goes, it's been great. I've got a almost 5-year-old son named Elias, who I don't force my family to eat carnivore, but as a result of it, he has he has a high protein diet. My wife, who a stiff wind could knock her over, based on her size, she's eating high protein because it makes her feel better.
He's now 7 months postpartum.
Yeah, about 5. No, 6.
Oh,
6. So, but 6. Yeah, okay, around 6, depending on when this airs. But the funny thing is, if I just keep my other son, he's on an all dairy diet right now.
The mama diet.
Yeah. So, but which technically, I guess he's high protein.
He's carnivore. So.
Right. What's crazy about it is he gets to have his first solid food at the end of this week or next week. And so he goes to the doctor, gets his, important shots, some of his shots, just like the Tdap and stuff like that.
Tdap,
So in case, we're like boys do, he's hanging out on a rusty nail. He doesn't, get lockjaw, but all that kind of stuff. He's been doing really well and growing. I also, just as a side note, I watched, how it is. TikTok has a lot of people that know everything and never studied, but I did see something interesting about the correlation between moms being pregnant and how and you would just assume this, but you don't really know it. But how when they had not carnivore necessarily, but just higher protein and whole food diets, how high sugar and just eating what you want to eat and what, that kind of stuff, how it deeply affects how your kids' systems develop later on in life. Yeah. I thought it was kind of cool because we've tried to be pretty whole food with pretty, just healthier food with my first son. And then my second son, and he's going to be like me. The second one's going to be built like a Mack truck. Like he's already super barrel chested and fat. Dude. Yeah, so he's a big old fat kid. It's hilarious. Well, you want him to be fat. You want him to be fat as babies because they're healthy.
Yeah, you want him to be healthy.
He's just built like this. But Eli is real wide like me, but he's going to be tall.
Yeah.
And, I'm 5'9", so I'm just average height. But he's on his mom's side. they're taller. So I don't know. I might have two monsters of kids at one point.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's cool. All right. So it's been 6 months since our first interview. When you think back of that version of yourself, 3 weeks in, excited, hopeful, maybe still a little bit wondering if this was going to work for you.
Yeah.
What do you remember most about where you were then?
Yeah, you're right. I was less than 3 weeks. I was 3 weeks in. Here's the crazy thing was,
with
and I
a
think I said
newborn. I still can't believe that.
I can't believe it either. But I always overcommit on a lot of things like that and do them. But I will say what was nuts about that, and I probably said it in the last interview, so it'll be brief. But I thought I was starting. Like I said, my wife is tiny, so when she's got one kid, she looks like some women with triplets. Like it's just like a torpedo. And so we thought my other son was 2 days late. So I thought I'm going to get used to carnivore. I'm aware of it. And I think I told you, I feel like a gambler at the end of that movie where, they need that one roll to make it work. And this is kind of my last shot. And I'll tell you, there were days as a pastor, but more importantly, just as a believer, that I would just go to bed and go, God, if I don't wake up in the morning, I'm okay with that. Like it was just bad. And I wasn't the person I wanted to be emotionally, mentally, like all those things were just struggling. So when you and I had talked a long time, a few months before that, I just thought, I'm going to do it. This guy, great story, but he also has paid attention to how to do it. And I just thought, if I do this 2 weeks before my child comes, it'll be great. And so
God's got jokes.
Yeah. And so then I just start I'm eating bacon and eggs in the morning. And then that night, my wife starts getting Braxton Hicks, we think. Turns out they're full-fledged. And so I have my son the day I start carnivore. And but it was great because there's a Chick-fil-A close, so you can do grilled nuggets. You could do so we took care of my parents.
You were texting me about all the different things you could eat. Yeah.
I was like, I need help. But my parents were bringing like pre-cooked bacon from stores, and I'd be like, I had a whole pack of bacon. Yeah. And so anyway, it was that whole time, those first 3 weeks, I will say in the first 2 weeks, brain fog stopped. It just dissipated. And that was incredible for me because my wife and I had thought, do I have adult ADHD? Do I have, we just kept thinking through all these things. And it really it kind of gave me some, it may be anecdotal, but it gave me some experience and thought on what we have so many diagnoses, but so few life changes. And so we medicate things that I just wonder how many people feel like me and they're like, I've had no indicators my whole life that I had problems like this, but now I all of a sudden do. And
that was me.
Yeah. When I start seeing that change, that made a huge difference in me. And I felt, and I was, you can see I'm bigger, or I'll even send you, if you can put them on the screen if you want later when we talk about then to now. But we just got family pictures, and I was in an XL shirt, and I was in 36 jeans. They were tight, but I was in 36 jeans. and so, but I was in a triple XL, and I was in 40 waisted jeans, and that's fine. If I have no problem. I want people to be healthy. And when people aren't healthy, that's an issue. So some guys are big enough that a 40 jean is normal. It's okay. I'm not.
Yeah.
So I just was sick and slow and the crazy thing was I was doing a retreat for your church. I was preaching for your students. And that I'm a passionate preacher and I'm a relationships guy and I'm all on when I'm there. But the problem was that was all the energy I could give and then I was gone.
Yeah.
And so that's what my family got. My family got the, I'm gone guy and everybody else, because you got to make a living, because you've got to, take care of people. And so that was where I was at. And I was rolling the dice and praying and hoping that this would be the thing that let me love my kids the way that I needed to love them. That let me take care of my wife the way that I needed, because I want to have fun with my kids. I love throwing my son across the living room onto the couch and having him be, without one time and going, I can't do it anymore, So, and I'm a big dude. So I grew up real thick and strong and physical work and those kind of things. And man, I was going to bed just in pain, just from going through the day, a normal day. And so, that was about where I was. It was just, I was starting to see my joint pain decrease. I was seeing the scale was starting to drop even in 20 weeks. And I wasn't so inflamed, and that was huge. So that 3 week mark, that's about where I was at.
Yeah. Well, you kind of already touched on this, but back then, one of the things you said that really stuck out to me, because it's what I had personally struggled with, is that you didn't want to feel like a granddad to your kids. You wanted to actually be able to play with them, be present with them, and have energy, rather than being the dad with like the fishing pole with a toy and just reeling it back in. So 6 months later, do you feel closer to the dad that you're hoping to be?
Way closer. Way better.
I don't want to say there, because we're never there, but closer.
Right. Closer. I do. There's been, this is kind of on adjacent to what we're talking about, but I had great parents, and I love my dad. And it's a different world maybe. And I think that you and I probably have very similar parenting ideas, just biblical ideas, and where we're focused. But I will tell you, I see so much after 20 years of student ministry, that, my parents, they did really good at the teaching. It was real hard for them to be present. And so my dad was just always working, and I inherited a lot of that from him. But I had made, the thing that was so hard was I had made several decisions of how I was not going to let that get in the way of it. And then what I would just notice, like, I'm going to spend time with my boys, and I'm not going to be a stay-at-home dad kind of a thing, but what I am going to do is be there when I need to be there. And we're going to have fun, and we're going to enjoy things. And I think I think your family and kids, by the way, this is side note, but it's free for anybody listening. You should have plenty of time of boredom in your home. You should make sure that because some of the best times we ever had growing up that kids don't get now is boredom. You get creative when you're bored. You have family moments when you're bored. Like, if you are scheduled to the hilt every day of the week, I think it's sinful if you're a believer, but even if you're not, the funny thing is how God designed it, that sinful always works to the negative on us. And you've got people that are constantly engaged and never learn how to calm. And so, but I would find that before this, now I'm able to be way more present, because I'm just like, my son has just stopped doing it. But my joint pain that I had, I would get up from the chair, and sometimes I still do it, but I'd get up from the chair and I'd go,
oh, sound, yeah.
And because it just hurt. And my son would get up and he'd go, oh, and he'd make those noises. Yeah. And we don't do that anymore. I don't have that pain anymore. And so some of that stuff has just been really fun. And it's been really cool to be able to be more, not only to be emotionally present, to be just there as a kid, to be better when I discipline. But I will tell you, one of the things we talked about, there's never a point where I'm not accountable for what I do. So I'm 100% accountable. But what I saw was maybe a better way of alliterating it, or a better way of explaining it than last time. Excuse me. I got to stop smoking. That's the other thing I got to do. The biggest thing for me, it was that I was putting in so much mental effort and work into managing my emotions, into not being a jerk, to not being so short fused, and nothing would help. And what was crazy is that because it's just the same truth of anything, that sometimes you just meet a dog that's a mean dog because it's just a dog that's always in pain. You know what I mean? I mean, like this idea, like
that's one way to put it. Yeah.
I mean, it's my dad grew up on a farm, so that's kind of the world I think. But I think sometimes we're old dogs, and it doesn't matter how much we like something or want to be better. If we're not addressing all the other pains that are stressing and pulling us down, you don't have the results you want to have and growth. And that's where it shifted for me when pain started lifting, and my wife, the response that she got, I think even well after the 3 week mark, was, you are way more like the guy that I married in a good way than you have been in the last 4 or 5 years. And she goes, it's clear. And it wasn't because it magically changed. It was because I was grinding the work trying to manage stuff. But once things cleared up and pain went away and it was a lot easier and I was more normal like I should be, it was a lot better. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's good. So you did talk a lot about joint pain, inflammation. You said at one point the getting off the couch, you made the grunt, and your son doing that. Yeah. And then the biggest ailments that you were dealing with was, I don't even want to say this because I feel like I'm going to say it wrong, the ankylosing spondylitis?
Pretty close, yeah. Just ankylosing, but yeah. It's a weird word.
And then the stomach issues, the bloating. You already mentioned the brain fog, but just a lot of that stacked up. So let's talk through some of that. How is your pain, all of those ailments today compared to where you were 6 months ago?
To the point that I wouldn't think that I had them. I would just think that I was getting a little older. And it's so I went from feeling like a 65, 70-year-old that is not super active. And that was driving me nuts, Jordan, because I'm just, when I was in college and high school, and even now, I'm a really strong person, but when you can't do the things that you know to do, you're like, what use am I? And so it was absolutely, I feel like I went from being, 65 to being 37 again, to being in my 30s. And I kind of, I'll be honest, there's a little bit of bitterness in me that I feel like I lost my 30s in some ways,
lost some years, yeah.
And God does, God, I'm thankful though that no time is wasted in God's economy of time. But at the same time, those are things that absolutely, there was a lot of things shaped in me that I would have had no idea just in the midst of that. And so there's a lot of endurance shape, but it is, I kind of look back and went, man, I sure wish, because I found ankylosing spondylitis it does a lot of things, but it really affects your lower back and your feet. And then SIBO is something that goes along with that, which is just small intestine bacterial overgrowth, and that would make me so. That's what you're talking about with the bloating. And my stomach. It was crazy, as we talked about this earlier. I've had a umbilical hernia now for about a year, and I had a doctor, not a great doctor, by the way. I've switched since then, but I had he wasn't a primary care guy, it was just a referral. But because he was a guy that said, "Oh, I'm a gut doctor. I work on your gut. I work on your intestines." He said, "It's not really that hard. There's not a lot going on in there." And I was like, "That's like the main area that your body does everything." But he said, if this hernia doesn't hurt, then it's fine. It's more, But it started to hurt, so I'm going to have that fixed. I think that even helps some of the distendedness. But I had a church member tell my wife, "Ian looks so much better," and it wasn't because I was thinner. They said he doesn't look. Is he pregnant? But he's got that glow in his face. But no, because he said his gut and stomach looked distended, like it was bloated out. And he said, and it's just within a couple of months, it was just gone. Now my gut's bigger than I want it to be, and I'm working on that. But man, it was crazy to me how I don't make those noises getting up off the couch anymore. But one of the things I used to do is I would sit. And it didn't matter where I was at. If it was church, if it was sitting at the dinner table when we'd have people over or whatever, I would opt to move to the couch because I would have to shift constantly. And I would have to just tell people, I'm not uninterested in what you're saying. I'm in a lot of pain and I just got to move. Yeah. I don't do that anymore. That's good. Doesn't happen. Yeah. And so even being able to, I go to the gym now with one of our church members who I appreciate that because I'm not. Food is more of a reactionary thing, right? You're making a choice to change what you've already got to do. But to get up and to go do that when I could rather get up and work for 12 hours a day, I don't do the gym. But one of our church members said, I've got through my insurance, I have a free membership somewhere and I should just do it. But my guy called me and he said, "Hey, I go to this other gym and I got a free buddy pass. Would you want to work out with me?" And this has been the first week, don't say too much, but it'll be the first week that I've done a full 5 days. Yeah,
that's good, man.
Yeah, I was doing 3 days a week, but it's at 5:30 in the morning. And I'm not
4:45.
Yeah, see, I used to be a really early riser.
But that's availability, not because I want to.
That's same here. And so we do 40 minutes a day of stuff, and then I'm trying to add a little walk run onto it. But it's been really, really good. Yeah. Those things have become much more of underlying conditions than just full blown,
Yeah. So for me, I have to be reminded that I am 36 now because I'll try to act like I'm 25 and go out. And then I realize I have plantar fasciitis and all this stupid stuff that I'm like, okay, Jordan,
I'll tell you something.
I can push myself more than I ever could. But
one thing that'll gross you out about it is one time when I was a kid, I had one of those, I don't know if it was plantar fasciitis, but it was one of those ingrown warts on my toe. I cut it out myself and pulled it out with pliers. It was nuts.
This is the
my parents had no idea.
wrong episode for that.
They hurt, man. I had that for 6 months, and as a kid, I don't know why. As a kid, it's given me a lot more grace towards parents too, because for me to remember me as a kid, because like my parents would have dealt with whatever medical thing I had, and it wouldn't have been a problem. But I just wouldn't tell them, and I don't know why I wouldn't tell them. And why would you ever ask? But I noticed that I adjusted the way that I walked, and my big toe wouldn't touch the ground anymore.
Yeah.
And so like somehow with a pocket knife and a pair of pliers, because you couldn't feel it, I tore it out. But it's just those are no joke, brother. No joke.
So I mean, with non-scale victories, that's one thing that I had to change. Is I had to change shoes. My fat Jordan shoes.
Yeah.
My body readjusted and I was walking differently. And I know you're talking about when you were a kid with the
I know
wart,
what you're saying. Yeah.
But now, like I had to get rid of my shoes because the way that I walked was uncomfortable in the fat Jordan shoes.
You might have to answer this for me or give me some advice, but I feel like I lost so much inflammation. So I used to lose a lot of weight, and I lost it in my feet too, right? I wouldn't, you don't lose it's not your length, it's your width on the shoe. And, but now I feel like my feet, and I still have about 70 pounds I want to drop. I want to get down to 200. And I don't ever, when I'm not swollen, I don't ever look quite as big as I am, but I'm ready to lose about 50 to 70. But my feet don't have a lot more to shrink, which is kind of cool to me. Like, this has been something different because I have lost weight in the past, but it feels like it's almost like things have gone down to where they need to be, and now the rest of it is getting the core stuff done. I could be wrong, but like I have, I invest in certain shoes for, we camp. I know you guys aren't campers, but we're going to go to our first. No, that's the other thing, by the way. One of the things I pick things to do with my sons if I can and right now it's just one son because the other one's too little.
Yeah.
But I pick things to do that I can't make into work. And so, because that's just how I am. That's how my dad was. That's how I am. And I don't have a problem with it, but I want to be able to do things. So a couple of things that we do now, we have I saved up and on Facebook Marketplace bought a brand new Yeti, because I wanted a really nice cooler.
Fancy.
And I know, and I'm not fancy, but I just remember that maybe this is just me. I'm just throwing out. But as a kid, I remember we were always saving money. And so instead of the Yeti, you'd get the Betty. And the Betty wouldn't be as good, and
that
and I'm
igloo.
And I'm thinking all my life about what do I leave with my kids? And because, books and my preaching Bible and my binders. But now we have a Yeti, but here's
that's
what we
country.
Do. Well, calm down. Hold on. Every time we go, when we go camping somewhere, we put a sticker and we affix a sticker to it. And so now we've got two, but this is the point. I wanted to do that when you and I first talked. I couldn't imagine physically doing it anymore. And now we've been on 2 trips and we're going to our first national park in Southern Colorado in October. So it's like God has worked in us in a big way and helped me through this. And part of that has been carnivore making me enough that I can go. Like, I was thinking about it because I bought combat boots from a friend of mine who, I know it sounds weird, but he's an Army guy. And I just said, I need something that I'm going to buy it and never have to worry again. And I was a little bit nervous about foot size and losing weight. And they were about a month ago that I got them, but they fit perfectly and all that. But combat boots, meaning he was in the Army and he gets a huge discount on these really expensive boots. And so he bought them for me. But I'll never get another pair. He wore them every day for 25 years and he got a new pair. Like he said, they last for forever. But the point is just, I'm thinking we went on our camping trip, this last one we did, and we try to do a state park, national park, not an idea. Or 5 national parks, or 5 state parks in a year, but 1 national park a year. And we went hiking, man. We went hiking for an hour and climbed up rocks. And my dad, who's 70, is climbing up like I remember him climbing up when I was a kid. And I was like, man, you're going to break a hip or something. Like he was fine, but I wasn't struggling. And that was a huge shift for me. That it was a lot of fun, man. I can't say enough how much fun it is to do I feel like for once in the last 10 years, it's not just bull when I say, I want to do this, I want to do that. Because I wanted to, I never was going to do it because I just felt terrible. So
I get that. All right, so let's go a little bit deeper inside of the head and the brain fog things that you were dealing with. When when you say that that brain fog cleared up, is that something that remains consistent, or are there times that it comes back in waves? Like, how would you say that? Just
It's a lot more. It's a lot more cyclical than it is permanent. I think. I think that because I think
yeah.
all of us, I work. We've talked about this before, but I work a lot, and I'm usually balancing. The thing is, I used to do student ministry only, and I did that for 80 hours a week, and that's like one lane, and you've got maybe a few little lanes, but you're all in the same thing. Here, we do a national nonprofit. We have our church, and then we have some stuff on the side that we do just to make things work. And you're shifting highways every day, and so sometimes there's brain fatigue, and you're just kind of like, I gotta just take a break for a few hours. But as far as the fog, the difference was, at one point in some churches, there's some really part of our nonprofit is serving. The main mission of it is to make sure pastors and their spouses are healthy, because ministry is you deal with all the toxicity. And if you're not careful, like being a pastor, sometimes it's like being a pastor is not its own special job that nobody else gets to do. It's really the lowest job that if you're not healthy and you're not taking care of yourself, everybody else will suffer, and you'll suffer from them. And so like you just got to really live in that world. And so there were points in ministry where I would take I was on an SSRI, and so I'd take an like Lexapro, and that was something I needed for a season. I have no problem with medications like that. I think if you break your arm, you're going to want medicine. Well, your mind can be broken too sometimes. So for me, it was more cyclical in that area. But the reason I mentioned that is that for a while I took something called Klonopin. It's a benzodiazepine, and so I was in some really unhealthy churches. It's part of why we do it now. But I would get so stressed with all these expectations and these horrible meetings and the stuff going on that I would just go, I'd set, like my hands were kind of like this on my desk, and I would just stare at the computer for hours. And because everything's just racing through your mind, and I wouldn't get anything done. And so what Klonopin helped me do when I was stressed is that it helped slow everything down, and I could help do things as needed. And it wasn't a lot that I needed to do. With the brain fog, it was a really similar outcome, but it was a different way. I would just sit and go, I could do this, I could do that, I could do that. And I would just, it wasn't because I was stressed, it was because I just couldn't fixate my mind on something. And that shifted. I became way more productive. I wasn't, the crazy thing is, we've talked about this, I was eating probably enough bad things that it was causing problems, but I wasn't like, I think you get the view of like, I feel like people think that when you're at this point, you're Ben Stiller from Dodgeball at the end. When he's eating, he's like, what do you think, jerk? And he just starts eating. I wasn't that way, but I will say I overate because I was never nourished. And so whatever I was putting into my body over time, and that's why I think that I think everybody should do carnivore at one point just for the elimination side of it. I don't think it should be a lifelong goal.
100%.
That's just a healthy thing. And
what works,
because like my sister has some autoimmune struggles that she's working through, and carnivore doesn't work for her as a thing. And so it's okay that it doesn't work for everybody, but elimination diets, any dietitian will tell you that's an important thing.
Yeah.
And so when I did that, it shifted from thinking about all the different highways I needed to get my car on to when I wanted to go to just tunnel vision in on one thing, I was way more able to do that. And also I'll go back to it, man. You are not anymore. Your bodily health is of no consequence without emotional and mental health. It will, because it'll be maybe healthy for a while, but your mental and your emotional health drive everything else that you do. That's just a spiritual truth. And so what was crazy about it is the more emotionally healthy I was, the more I was not dealing with anxiety or with anger or frustration the way that I was. Like, as I was putting those tools into use, it was much easier to say, oh, I can focus on this and not be. I've been far better. And I wonder if so much of our anxiety culture and trauma culture that we live in, I think a lot of it is nurture, and we have done a real bad job of nurturing. But I think that there's a lot of natural problems with resilience most of us aren't even putting food in our body on a regular basis. We're putting wood fillers from whatever, or whatever. I mean, like, you look at the Parmesan cheese and it has wood filler in it. And so like the shaky cheese. And so I don't know. I will tell you that the brain fog helped because what I mean by it is I could not get my eyes to focus. Everything felt like it was a moving target and it was going in and out of the fog, right? Hence the name. But I was able to really focus in much better on things and be less overwhelmed. If that helps.
So would you say that you are able to more regulate those emotions now?
Yeah.
Because like you talked about the rage and just the sharp attitude that you would have and be able to snap on a dime. Like, do you feel like you can better? I mean, the word is better because you never just quit just because we still are a little bit psycho.
I'm perfect.
But being able to better regulate that, right?
No, absolutely. In fact, I should have thought to bring Hannah in here. She's in the house, but she's with the kids. But she could tell you better than I could, much better. And and you're 100% right. It's not perfect, and it's an absolute. The problem is if you say, "Oh, it's all fixed." The thing, and I know you as an influencer and a creator don't want this. I don't want and you're a pastor. I, as a pastor too, don't want somebody to think I'm saying, "Do this outward thing," and it makes this inward change. The problem is that they're not. They're two sides of the same coin. If everything is out of whack anywhere, because following Christ is genuinely about balance. When you become overly law oriented, then you're going to be legalistic. When you become overly grace oriented, you become an abuser of what God's called you to do. And so even in that, when you look at your physical and your emotional side of it, I absolutely have an underlying irritation and a sharpness that comes a lot from how I grew up and things that I saw, right? But I will tell you that there are, like, I don't even know how to explain this, but Hannah and I but we have a BC remarker before carnivore, because there will be conversations and I'll say, and I'll get irritated, but my anger or irritation it's like a butter knife now, and it used to be like a sword, and it's just kind of like I'll just get irritable, and I'm quicker to say I'm sorry. My wife is quicker to realize when she's wrong. It's kind of a nice thing. Like it's much more giving and taking, because it was just this dark cloud. But there are conversations that we have where I'll say, "Hey, why are you doing this? Like this doesn't make any sense, and it's really a pain." Because I do a lot of the cooking in our house. My wife's become a 10 times better cook than she was. She just never learned, and so she's been doing a lot of stuff lately, and it's a little bit easier because they don't eat. My son loves to sit and eat steak off of a cutting board with me. And I have a 27-pound
That's what I'm talking about.
I got a 27-pound chuck roll in my fridge right now that's about to be cut up into
chuck-eye steaks.
So that's all I eat, man. They're poor man's ribeye. They're so good. And I got 15 pounds of bacon I got to sort for the month. So all of that to say, I cut stuff up like when I'm doing stuff in the kitchen and I'll move something, I'll say, "Hannah, what is the deal? Like, why is this here? That's so weird. Like, this doesn't make any sense." And she went, "You literally had a conversation with me and you told me that needed to be like that. And I thought it was dumb, but I just did it because that's what you wanted me to do." And I said, "When did I have that conversation?" And she goes, "You had it like 8 months ago." And I went, I said, "It's
BC era."
It really is." And I told her, I said, "I think we got to have a BC thing because I don't remember any of this." And I said, "It's not that I'm not culpable for it, but like there's a little bit more grace for us in the period where I was just nuts. Like it was a lot harder to focus on things because I don't remember half of that junk." And even at work, when we're building a nonprofit, which is incredibly hard work, and it's not work I ever really wanted to do until now. And so, but we're building a nonprofit and we're running a church and we're doing these things. And the hard thing was I would have conversations. And this was going on. I've been here for 7 years. This started about 8 years ago. So right before I came on, and it was new and I was learning about it. And it just, that extended into work and into everywhere. I wouldn't remember conversations I'd have. I wouldn't remember stuff about church members. And that's very atypical for me because I really focus on, I remember names and I remember what's going on. So it was, but it's just, the scary thing about it is that it's I don't know there's a term that I can't think of, but it is like the crab in the water boil. Like you get dumped in and something's not right and it's a little bit warm, but the more that the temperature just goes up. And so my fear is, and my hope is, if you're listening to this and you're there, it doesn't matter if you're brain fogged or you're fat and you're obese and you're struggling, or wherever you find yourself, because you can not be obese and still need to do something like this. I would lean. I don't know what kind of people you're with, but I would just tell you, I would take a lot of it less personally, and start thinking, if that's something that feels completely antithetical to who you are, if the reviews you're getting or the conversations, I would at least try something like this, because I think it's what it was huge for me, because now I'm remembering 80% of those guys. Now the 20% I don't remember is just because I wasn't paying attention, and so that's I don't know, that's a huge shift. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but that's helpful for me.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of Hannah noticing things, what are some things that she has noticed that you yourself haven't even noticed that she had to share with you?
Oh man. Well, I don't. I will tell you that you're a lot more like who I married, and honestly, I do remember.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. It's not like the last 7 years were blank, but sorry, but I do remember a lot of the conversations that we had. I would get so mad about her saying, well, you're not who, because she said, the statement was, she didn't, and none of us communicate as clearly as we want to. But sometimes we have a hard time communicating, and she would just say, you're not who you used to be. And I'd say, well, you don't want who you used to be. Like, and it was really, and it does come across
a coping
negatively.
mechanism.
Yeah, but it kind of like it's a kick in the gut when people use that and they really just want you to be somebody you're not. But what she was trying to say was something is, and I just thought it was a personality shift that she needed to get over. What I realized in the last 6 months was that a lot of it was talking about there's a fundamental difference between who you are wired to be and who you're being, and I don't get that. And that was kind of a nice. Like I had the presence of mind, and I think what you're doing when you eliminate the fog and the pain and all that is that you're eliminating bandwidth to process stuff easier
That's
mentally.
good, yeah.
And so you're creating bandwidth and you're eliminating pain, and so I just eliminating noise, and I just went, oh, well, that's good then. I said that makes sense then, and so that was one of those things. She told me that the more she sticks to. She's higher protein, but she just wants to eat healthier because she is. I mean, she's one of those people that doesn't. She's the tofu. They always say, thin on the outside, fat on the inside. Like she can.
Oh
she
my
doesn't.
God.
Well, there's that. It's a deal. Tofu is like I think it's a dietitian term now, where she can eat. She can eat Twinkies every day, and she might get a little bit of a stomach. But she'll have the blood work of somebody. Her. I know. She'll have the blood work of somebody dying on their deathbed because of whatever, but she just looks fine. And so for her, it's much more of an internal shift, but she just went, well, if you're eating and feeling better, then I'm going to do it. And one revelation for her was just, she didn't have to be a radical carnivore. And she also she spent a lot of time watching like Michaela Peterson and Jordan Peterson, and seeing what the pain and the stuff they were going through, and she would see those similarities with me, but she started shifting towards it, and she loves it, and so she feels better, she shops better, she does it, and the big thing is we've struck a better balance where there were times in our marriage, and we've only been married for about 11 years, but there were times in the marriage where I would try and do something, and I didn't feel like she was supporting me at all. But now that I feel like we're kind of on the same page, and my son has really bad stomach issues with bowel movements and things that it's trying to, he's only 5. And so we really work hard to keep him on more whole foods, keeping fiber in him and more protein, and we don't do a lot of sugar. But we're just not weird about it. Like we have sugar that he can have occasionally. Like he has a candy bucket bigger than him. And the reason it's bigger than him is because he doesn't get to eat it when people give it to him right away. Like we're trying to please him. But some of that has shifted with her to where when she brings home pie from my sister's house and they're hanging out and they give her something, I don't get irritated about that. It's not really.
Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy, but because you don't feel like you're in it alone. That's just she gets the right to do that, and I get the right to do these things, and so I will tell you, I don't know if this is where we're headed with any of it, but I will say, cravings are not, when you do this and you commit to it, I like it only because, so I did a diet called the HCG diet a lot. It's very similar. It's not, I mean, it's not exactly the same, but it's very similar in structure. And only you calorie count. You don't just, and I've never calorie counted. And I did tell you, I know we'll get to this, but I've been plateaued for about a month or two, and but my body has not gained back. And that has been what has been a huge shift, is that even though I'm stuck, and I don't like that I'm stuck, I'm really happy that I'm not in reverse. And so, but I say all that to say, the craving side of it, what I've maybe figured that I like textures more than I want tastes. And so I miss, the only thing that I really, really miss is popcorn with my son, because my son and I like to eat popcorn together. And honestly, I don't even like buttery popcorn. I don't like movie theater. I like to pop it on the stove, and I like to put salt and pepper on it. Weird as that is, but I just
get out. We're done. This interview's over. Give me all the butter.
Do you know why I don't? Probably is because that would be the one thing I'd splurge on. Even when I was overweight and I couldn't figure it out, like I would just not eat anything for a day or two, and then I'd go to the theater and get it. But the problem was when I eat that synthetic butter, and when I eat a lot of synthetic stuff,
it's not butter.
Yeah, whenever you eat, it's like Rico's party cheese. It's not cheese. It's cheese like. But when I eat that stuff, I feel terrible. And as much as so one of the things that I still felt better on it was, salt and pepper popcorn. And my son loves it. And so I miss that stuff. But what I've noticed is I used to only want soft bacon, cooked where it was softer and not crunchy. Now I've shifted exclusively to, I cook my bacon in the microwave because it'll make it crunchy every time. And that fixes, that satiates need for crunch.
Sensation you need,
yeah. And so we do True Lime packets. We go through 1,000 every month and a half or 2 months, because I put
That's 4 in lime.
I put 4 in every liter, and so I do these. So we do SodaStream now because it saves money, but all I drink is carbonated water, and I drink carbonated water with that lime, and then we do our salt. We just ran out, so we need to order more. But I do my salt, essential minerals. But and I drink probably 5, because again, the bubble. That's a I didn't even like regular Coke. I drank Diet. I could drink probably a 12-pack of Diet Coke a day if I wanted. I love Diet Coke. I know, but I love it. I don't even like sugar. I'm not a sweets guy, but I'll tell you, I'm a carbonation guy. So you kind of figure out, once you figure out what you're doing and you like what you're doing and you know where the guardrails are, the temptations become a lot less of an issue, because you're like, I could dwell on that, or I could go cook a 1.5 pound steak and eat it. I'm just going to cook the steak, and you just go do what you're going to do. And that has been a lot easier for all of us, and Hannah likes it. And so anyway, I have enjoyed a lot of, hitting the food, doing those foods. You've got a lot of great hacks on things that you can add in. And I've moved a little bit closer to some extra dairy and some cheese here and there. And so sometimes it just gets repetitive, but we've been talking about that a little bit. I may pull back as I'm working out to try and keep shedding pounds, but I don't even care about the pounds. I just care about the sizing. If I can just shed the size is the big thing for me. And so, I have remained to get slowly but surely, even in a plateau of weight, get smaller in size. So I used to not be able to fit in this hoodie, and maybe it doesn't look as big as it feels, but Hannah goes, "You don't need to wear that out. Stop wearing that out. It looks bad."
Oversize is coming back in. Okay. 90s grunge is back.
That's right.
All right. So you are in month 6. What has been harder, like going from that 3-week, 1 month time range, or now? Like what has changed from then to now? Is it normal? Is it still exciting? Like what has changed about you most with this journey?
I think overall it's easier, but because it's become normal, it's a lot easier to do. It's a lot. I mean, maybe it's this way with. I think food probably functions similarly to, not to insult anybody that has gone through alcoholism or drug abuse, but the longer you stay sober, or the longer you stay away from something, usually the easier it is, because you build up a certain amount of, not tolerance, but you build up a certain amount of of history and resilience to be like, I just don't do that. So that has been what's been funny. Well, now I won't tell that story. It's not appropriate. But I will say, one thing is I take part of the autoimmune issue I have is that it hurts my testosterone development. And so, I know a lot of guys have that, and to the point that they call it low T. Low T. Which they just make that, whenever it gets a catchphrase, you kind of don't want to say you have it anymore. But I do shots. What's cool is, for anybody that doesn't know, I didn't know this. Testosterone is considered a controlled substance. So if you go to I have a nurse practitioner.
You have a tea dealer. Get it?
My tea deals, but she is my PCP, and so she's a nurse practitioner. So she actually has to get approved by a overseeing doctor to prescribe it to me. And so anyway, it's just always a pain, which I guess if I'm roiding out, I've been doing it for the last year or two, I'm not doing well. So I'm not like a muscle man, but it is funny that, so we have taken that dough, and I can tell that the funny thing is that you may have that issue. I didn't have, and this may be TMI. I thought that you would always know you had testosterone issues because you had some type of sexual problem or like a performance problem. And I genuinely, I didn't have any of those issues. So I thought when they said your testosterone is not it's not 0, but it's at like 100, and it should be between 200 and 1,000. It's a really wide range. Yeah. And I said, well, I want to, and what I noticed was I just wanted to sleep all the time. And so I just had no energy. And what's crazy is I do 2 shots a week, but I have actually in the last 6 months decreased it by half, because if you do a controlled substance, you have every 3 months you got to have blood work.
They have to follow the metrics. Yeah.
And so she hit me up, and the cool thing is I told her, I used to say, I am rip roaring and ready to go Monday through Wednesday, and then I just sink. I said, what do we do?
Gotcha,
She said, oh man, then we just do 2 shots. We split it in half because your body will process it at a certain speed. So I've been doing 2 shots. Well, I was doing almost at one point 1 mil, which is not a lot, but 1 mil a Sunday and then 1 mil Wednesday. And then she cut it. She was like, that's a lot. We're going to cut it down to 1 Sunday and then a half on Wednesday. But then I got my latest blood work back a couple months ago, and she goes, hey, I'm knocking you down. You don't need it anymore. You just need to do half a mil twice a week. So I'm wondering too, I don't know if this is true or not, but I just know fat on your body, excess fat, just stresses a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
and I'm wondering
it's regulating itself now.
Yeah,
the best it can.
The more that I can get rid of it, the better it's going to do with that kind of stuff. And so anyway, that has been really cool to watch certain even medical things get better, the better that my diet and what I do. And, we've been to some really hokey, holistic medicine people that are just real bad.
Drink the beet juice. And
I'm an equal opportunity health person. I think that you absolutely need drugs for some stuff, and then you absolutely need better cures, and you just got to find that middle ground. But one of the things from even one of the hokey people that they said, because they did a really bad job of helping, but what they did say, and I always agreed with this, and it's a pretty common expression, but like food is medicine. And if you're just dumping whatever in your body, and I think what I appreciated about you was so much is that your idea of like, it doesn't, even if you got to get a Barilla hot dog, and just start there because you can't afford anything else, just do that. But for me, we have a restaurant, our church qualifies to have an account with a Restaurant Depot. And so, but you can still do it at Costco and it's more, but our church feeds people and does that, but I get to go and buy, meat there. And so I buy, like I said, I've got a 27-pound chuck roll. You can buy strip loin if you want to buy more, which is what the New York strip comes from. You can buy, rib eyes, all that kind of stuff. But I cut it out. You can check
out my video where I detail all that from last week.
Bam. But you cut it, and we just cut it out. And we have a really generous church member who raises, you do too. And I think I found out, I don't want to say this. He won't watch this so I don't want to obligate him. But I think he's got another one coming for us in October. Ooh, nice. So for Pastor Appreciation Month, but we still go through some of that. So, but even if the meat comes from, is it going to be 100% pure? Probably not, but it's sure that is way the heck better then
1,000,000 times better.
I've got healthy Cheez-Its. They're not healthy.
Right.
They're Cheez-Its. You know, I just don't know what to tell you. So but I would find myself this is what I thought was crazy. And I just know what to say of what I interpret it to be. I don't scientifically know why. But before I started doing this, I was never full. And I tend to
Just never felt satiated.
Yeah. And out of habit, this is where I did overeat, but it was interesting because I tell Hannah, I said, it wouldn't matter if I would eat till I felt full. But then an hour or two later, I'd feel super hungry and tired and worn out again. Mm-hmm. And then I need to go eat more. And I said, whatever, I don't know what the reasoning is, but it was whatever I was putting into my body was not ever actually nourishing it. It was just filling it. And so I could eat, I'm telling you, Jordan, over the course of 2 hours, I could eat a large pizza and I would still be hungry. And it was I guess you can say that's a certain amount of gluttony, but sometimes the idea of gluttony is you just want to eat, and it doesn't matter how you feel. I just wanted to feel full and like I was okay, like I was being nourished. And I've not had that problem since I started.
That's good.
And that kind of like sometimes you endure the withdrawal and the bad. I was past that. I felt like I was in withdrawal every day. So like it was kind of a breath of fresh air to get the new. But if you can endure the withdrawal for a couple of weeks, you start to really build a desire for what is good. And that is good. And so I don't miss, like I really do. When I see desserts and stuff, I think, man, that would be really good to taste that again. But I immediately go, no, and I don't have a problem one way or the other with people that drink alcohol, and in moderation, I've had alcohol. One of the things I noticed though was that if I ever drank alcohol, I just felt like garbage. That was just something I was like, yeah, I'm good. Because some guys on carnivore do some hard liquors and stuff, but I just realized I don't have a desire for something. I know I physically in my mind I can mentally go to and say, yeah, I'm gonna feel like garbage. I don't want to do that.
Right.
So I don't know. I think you eliminate all that stuff to the point that you're like, it almost helps I feel like it helped my mind to say, do you want that? No, that's not good. Do you want that? I do, but I don't want to feel like that in the morning. And then, it's just that idea. So anyway.
So let's move past some of the daisies and rainbows type of stuff where things have gotten so much better. What are some areas that were just downright hard for you?
Travel is a pain. Travel is, I don't want to. So we've been fortunate to work our budget out so that it's actually, we're spending less now than we were spending before. So that's been good, but I'll tell you, traveling is absolutely, so I travel, ideally I will travel I'm building a lot of a preaching and speaking presence, a continual one, like I did with you, but I have about 10, so for this last year, I've had about 10 trips, where I will go and I'll be gone somewhere. And churches are not, I'm sure you think if you look at mega church world that everybody that does ministry is super rich. But church is not a lucrative place. So like when you go, hey, I only eat meat and don't do sugar and I want Saratoga water, it doesn't go well. Not like, at least when you're me. And I wouldn't ask anybody to do that anyway. But I do. So I have one of the things that I had to just buckle down and deal with is that there's a couple of very specific, it feels like they're dog treats, but they're 15-ounce bags of double smoked sausages. And they're not strictly carnivore, but they're all I have. And they're the best thing I can do. Yeah. And Walmart sells them for $11 a bag right now. Probably next week they'll be $30 a bag. But so what I would just find myself doing is you really have to adjust, man. I think the Petersons said it really well a long time before I ever met you. And they were talking about, carnivore, and that was becoming popular. I just remember he said, do you want to, I can't ever do his voice, but he's like, have you on a social life? You won't have one. And I just laugh. And it's kind of true. Yeah. You have to, it is hard to, if somebody's buying you food, to be not rude and be like, I'll take the ribeye. But to know where you have to really be aware of what you're buying and what you're doing. But two, just being willing to say, man, I'll just sit here, you eat. I just can't. And you don't have to be embarrassed about it. It's just, it has the travel has just been a lot harder than it should be, than it normally would be. But I find myself, it was crazy because it's repetitive, but I will buy six 15-ounce bags for a 3-day trip. And so I'll find myself, I'll be like, all right, this is my AM bag day one. Through the day, I'll go through and eat them. On the other side of it, I have had, I mean, this is the tell-all podcast. And there might be daisies growing from this, but they're not the daisies and rainbows. I've had an incredibly hard time when it comes to passing food. And that's just, and I've worked on adjusting fats.
We've been having conversations about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, when you get into it, you've got to figure out, you've just got to be okay with adjusting some of those things and learning it. But it is, and I don't know if your body is, I know that you need fiber, you need some of those things, but at the same time, I also don't know. Sometimes I feel like your body is burning more efficiently and there's less to push through. But that's not been super fun at times.
Yeah.
Like as crazy as it is, it's not even a joke, but there have been times where I weighed for the morning for that week, and then I went to the bathroom, and then I got back, and I was 3 pounds lighter, literally. And it was, but I hadn't gone in like a week, or I hadn't gone in 4 or 5 days. And it's just interesting the way that it works. Yeah. So it might grow daisies, but it's not something you want to talk about like daisies. So that's our, those things have been tough. But I do think that the level of toughness will probably always be commensurate with the level of suffering you currently have. So if you're just wanting to do this for fun, and it might be a good idea to be healthy, it's going to be a lot harder for you because you're not giving up as much. You're giving up a lot. If you feel like garbage on a regular basis, it's going to feel like a light bulb comes on and fireworks because you don't feel nearly as bad. So I don't know, and we don't have, one of the worst things about the last 30 years of our culture is that we do not suffer very well, and we're not very resilient. I mean, it's just, I don't, sometimes I remind myself, especially since we do ministry, and ministry is not a high paying thing. There absolutely, I could spend a lot of money, but it's been interesting to see the things that matter the most and the things that you value. And how much surplus money we spend on stuff that just doesn't matter because we don't really know what it means to go without. So I really don't think carnivore is that hard, as much as I think we're really soft as people. Yeah. And so, if for anything, try it for a few months as an elimination diet and build some resilience, just to be able to say you've done it. But
let's talk a little bit more about the hard part of what you're currently going through, and that's the stall. One thing that I want to be careful with here is that we don't treat a stall like a failure, because a stall can mean a lot of things. It could be the scale has stopped moving. It could be that life has gotten more stressful. It could be that sleep has gotten rough. It could mean little things start creeping back in for other people. Or it could just mean that your body is healing in ways that's not showing up on the scale yet. And that's the biggest thing I want you to see. But when you say you've hit a stall, I just want to jump right into it. What do you feel like you did wrong? Or what is your routine? What is your real life telling you within that stall?
Let me think. Well, I'll tell you, when you first hit it, and during the time there's two things. One, the thing that keeps me doing it. So I didn't do it to lose weight. I mean, I did do it to lose. There's two reasons you did it. The primary one, though, there's a primary and then a very close secondary. But the primary was, I gotta feel better. Mm-hmm. And so that primary is still the truth now. I feel so much better. Also, I've read this, and I'm interested to hear what you think, but I sweat constantly. And I read that that's a thermogenic reaction, that when your body's burning protein burns hotter, and that you tend to sweat more. It may be worth it, but I've asked,
because Fat Jordan sweated like crazy, but Skinny Jordan's cold at 80-degree weather sometimes.
See, I'm always hot. Anyway, I'm hot natured, but I will tell you, or cold, whatever I can't remember if it's like nearsighted, farsighted, and it's reversed. But who knows? But I will say, I have read that if you are sweating a lot, and I do some AI, I do some Google search, I do some everything that a guy who knows nothing about medicine does.
Right.
But I have heard that your body, you will tend to sweat more. And I sweat when I was bloated and fat, feeling and sick. So I for sure sweated and wanted it. But this feels like no matter where I am or how cold it, like I'll wake up and I'll be cold but sweating. So it makes me feel like my body is burning a lot and doing a lot of work. I think though the stall is disappointing because I'm right within reach of the clothes I want to wear. I'm very close to the way that I want to look. And I think that, I'm not a body positivity guy, and the fact that I don't think you should make normative what is toxic and unhealthy.
Right.
I think that you
but
should.
also not to be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah, I think, and there's a heavy difference. Like the sad thing is that when you this at least I'm using a lot of buzzwords, but the body positivity side of it is your worth and value. The problem is that your worth and value cannot be linked into what you look like. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, what that does is that allows you to have a deeper identity and ability to change it. Because if it's all about what you look like and you're not looking like you want to look, you're not even going to try anything, because why would I ever try anything? I'm so fat. Like that's how I would feel.
That's why I don't want to say shaming, because there is a healthy shame involved, but it's not self-loathing,
That's what it is. And I think that there's got to be, we've made identity so much about the things that it shouldn't be. Anyway, that's not even as important, but it plays into some of, I want to look the way that I want to look. And I am, but I'll tell you the healthy side of it is I am well aware I'm not ever going to look like Henry Cavill. And I don't have the time to look like Henry. I'm not going to.
Superman?
I'm not going to. Yeah, I'm Superman's funny cousin. So all that to say, my wife doesn't need me to look like that and doesn't want me to.
Right.
But she is more attracted to me when I'm healthy and when I feel good. But the same way that your wife or any woman, love is blind, right? Like I don't need to think your wife's attractive. You need to. And you don't need to think my wife's attractive. But the win in all of it is what makes people attractive is a combination of their personality and who they are and their looks. And so for you. And so to me, I look at it and I think that's a stall struggle for me, is because I just want to look the way that I want to look. And I don't need washboard abs, but one day I do want to have a flatter stomach. And I just don't want to, I don't want to feel this bulge coming out. And so, within all of that, that's that plateau point hits. And I think you lean on the past. Hey, this has been working, so I need to be consistent. 2, I still feel better. And so remember how bad I felt. Yeah, I don't want to feel that way again. And then the other one is, I do think we talked about this. There are, I've just kind of added back a couple of things, like just a couple of times. And this has been the last couple of weeks. But one thing is a small handful every once in a while of bittersweet chocolate chips or whatever and something. And, that's not a lot, but it might be enough to offset me. And we do that into a chocolate protein, collagen, and some heavy whipping cream. But then the idea is, okay, it didn't kill me the first time I did BBB&E and was so focused. So I'm just going to go back to that for this stretch. I think the big positive is, I think everybody has the right to do whatever they want to do, right? I mean, that's the human condition. We all can do whatever we want to do. I get scared though with Wegovy shots and what are they? The general term
GLP-1s.
GLP-1s. Not the things are this. What comes easy goes easy. So just from a principled standpoint, and I did them for about, and this is what made me so mad, is I knew better, but I was just at that point where I knew that if I lost weight, I would look better.
Really felt like a last resort.
So I did them for about 3 months when they were before Trump signed it, or his bill was to make them cheap, right? But I did them when they were expensive, and I didn't really have the money to do them, and I lost 20 pounds. And then, but I asked before I ever started, I asked the current, not the person I have now, but the other person. It's part of why I left him. But I said, is this just going to come back on when I stop? Because at one point I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life. And she goes, oh yeah, it will. It will absolutely. It'll stay off. It'll be fine. And I said, okay. But as soon as I stopped, within 2 weeks, I gained everything back.
Yeah, and not more.
Yeah, and that's been the story. of my life with these issues and problems that I've got. And so, but the other thing about it is these GLP-1s are being linked to so much cancer research now. Like I'm watching new stories pop up. So is that what they're going to be? I don't know. But it's funny that the more we subvert healthy, natural, long-term work, the more danger there is in it, from whether it's principled or physical. And so what I have noticed in the last 2 months, Jordan, what's kind of nice is, even if I have had an avocado or some salsa here, even if I did drop some chocolate chips in here, I've stayed at the same weight for 2 months.
Yeah.
And I've never done that before. So I mean, life really is. I think
it's not a yo-yo diet when you
it was Chuck Swindoll who said it. He said life is not. I'm sure he stole it from somebody because I've heard this from a million places. But life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond. And you've got to frame things correctly. And so it's not enough to say, I've plateaued, it's a failure, it's all over. You got to go, wait, I'm missing 1 out of 4 things here. I'm not losing my size or my pounds like I want, but I feel better. I've maintained where I'm at, and I'm still getting smaller as we go. And so a 75 is still a C, and a C last time I checked gets you a degree. So like,
oh my God,
you're not at the A you want to be, but you're 75% of the way there. And so anyway, that's where I'm trying to take it right now. And you and I've talked about it, and I've been working out more, and there's always trade-offs. Like you've been good to give me realistic assessments of like, hey, if you're going to gain some muscle the more that you're working out, because I've got a lot of muscle mass that has just gone undeveloped. That's the nice thing too. You don't ever lose your muscle. You lose your muscle size, and if you had it before, you bulk it up pretty quick. Like it'll come back. And so, that is heavier, and sometimes there is an offset, and you're not losing as much, and you're not doing it. And also sometimes I wonder, my scale's been acting funny for the last couple of months, and I've switched batteries in and out of it anyway, and I bought it off Amazon. So sometimes scales just don't work well. I believe it. Yeah. But I feel better, and I do get smaller. So like I was in a triple X 6 months ago, and now I'm in some XLs, and I am almost too small for a double. And so like that's a pretty big thing to hold on to and to be happy about. Like I don't look at myself in the mirror and go, oh, anymore. I go, soon. That's how I feel. So
even with the stall, would you say that carnivore's still worth it?
Yeah, absolutely. You can. I mean, I think if you shoot for the wrong goal, then you will always hit the wrong target. And I think your goal has got to be, if you want to be healthier and live longer, and feel better, and that's your goal, that's a much easier thing to control. And it's okay to be like, I also want to be thin, because I want to be thin too. We're supposed to be like, we're not supposed to be overweight. That's why they call it overweight. So you're supposed to be at a certain point that is optimal for your body to work. And take it for what it's worth. I'm a pastor. I'm not a dietitian, and I'm not a workout guy or anything like that. But I know how God created humanity, and He created us to be okay. And there is this thing called sin that's broken everything and how it works. And God redeems and works through all of it. And so I just think if your goal is to look like somebody that, like, just be realistic. If your goal is to look like a Hemsworth, then have the money to go to be at the gym for 4 or 5 hours a day and probably take a lot of supplements. Yeah. Like that's the problem, is that you are the same Hollywood that tells you it's okay to be sickly overweight and to not feel, you be who you're going to be. They're also the same people that are now pushing the gaunt look that looks grossly thin. It's gross. Like I remember growing up and good looking women looked healthy, and now they look like they're about to die and get blown over. So like, I don't know. But at one point, you've got to stop looking for something really unrealistic, and you've got to just be like, what if I just, I don't need to even be skinny. What if I was just thin and healthy? And so that makes, when you kind of, I talk about with this in leadership with training student leaders and pastors. If you don't measure up to the bare minimum where you're at, then you don't need to lower your standards, but you need to move the bare minimum. And you got to meet it where you're at and then know where you're headed. And for us, it's been really nice that it actually really sucked. It sucked that the goal for me was just to not want to die.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was at. And so, but that made it a lot easier to know what the goal was. And so, but I think no matter where you're at, it will make it a lot easier from where you start to just say, I want to be healthy. I want to be a good spouse, a good parent. I want to, because men and women both, we try and push it off on each other. But if you get out of shape and sickly and all that kind of stuff, it's not good for your marriage for both of you. You're both supposed to look good and stay good, and not even for everybody else's standard, but for theirs. Like you want to be the other person. And that's it. That's the better goal. The better goal is to make the best of what you have, not to be something that you're not ever going to be. I'm not ever going to be 6'4". I'm not ever going to be ripped out of my mind. And I genuinely don't want to be that. You know how much work you have to do to maintain that? I got better things to do. My kids need a dad.
You do it for about a day, but then
then you're like, I'm out. I'm done.
Oh my word.
I don't know. Maybe those are just the ramblings of somebody that you don't want to listen to. But I would tell you that it is for somebody that has just struggling and felt like garbage for so long and has felt robbed of nearly a decade of time. It's absolutely been worth it. And it's something. Can I tell you, am I going to be strict on it for the rest of my life? I don't know. But I can tell you that I will be if I go back to anything else and I feel sick again. I'm not going to go down that road. So I don't.
That's exactly it.
You can tell me that it's not healthy or it's whatever, but I do think it's funny. We talked about this before. You can shove poison down your throat all day long and have doctors that look like they haven't touched a treadmill in 30 years. And they don't care. They don't care. And they'll give you I got a call. It was kind of a crazy thing, but I went to this doctor, the gut doctor, and I told him, I said, I'm not gluttonous. I'm not overweight because I just eat. Something's wrong with me and I need to change it. And he had somebody call me and go, yeah, let's do the lap band surgery. And I said,
oh, okay.
And this person had never seen me. They never even talked to me. They had just been, and I said, whoa. You're going to,
I'm not interviewing for a 600-pound life.
I said, first of all, I'm not doing that. I said, second of all, it's incredibly unhealthy and doesn't last. Again, it's an easy solution that goes easily. Yeah. I said, but two, I said, there's no, and that was one of the 4 or 5, other than just feeling terrible, one of those checkpoints that I went, I'll do this with Jordan. Like I would rather do something with Jordan. He's lost 170 pounds. He's lost 70 more than I need to lose, or 80 more than I need to lose by doing this. And I can work with him on it. But the crazy thing is most of your medical people that are they're worried about the numbers, they're worried about the kickbacks, they're worried about all the stuff that they're doing. And we have the best reactive healthcare in the world. We just don't have proactive healthcare. They profit off of sickness. And so I just told Hannah, I said, I don't need bariatric surgery. I don't need a lap band. That's crazy. I said, 2, because maybe that is something that people need. Some people need it. That helps them. But I said, I don't need to do that. I said, but I got to figure out what's wrong. And that, when you're at that point, I would gladly eat we eat like kings, by the way. People 150 years ago would be like, you have steak? I get steak once a year at Christmas time, for the festival. And so, but we eat like freaking kings and on a budget. And so I don't know. It's not a bad deal for me. I can eat a grilled steak every day. So
that's good. That's good. All right. So this channel is about real life and real results. And so even with the stall, I want to talk about December to now. When you started back in December, what were you weight wise?
I was either 307 or 312, and I can't remember which one, but I was heavier than I ever thought that I would be.
So what are you now?
I am between two, depending on the week, I'm between 265 and 270. So
okay,
just the week, I guess, but it's
roughly a 40-pound weight loss.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I'll tell you, if it's an encouragement it was encouraging for me, but if it encouraged anybody else, about half of that came in the first month. Because my body
dropping that water weight, everything. It's crazy.
What's crazy for me too is I hated my face looking like a tomato, and it was just round. Even the redness on my face has gone down.
That rosacea,
kind of, but it would just, my face, my whole head was round, and that's not how I'm supposed to look. Just my body doesn't look that way, and it's not because I don't like round faced people. The point was that when I'm not seeing what I should look like, and so in that first 2 weeks, my head started going. And I went, I look like me again. And my wife would go, oh, I like how you look. You look like you used to look. And it was a lot better. And so, yeah, you lose a lot of it really fast. And that water weight is great. You start having more energy. And man, I'm tired, and I'll be 100% honest with you. I work 12 to 16 hours some days. And so sometimes when I go to the gym like today and it was 5:30 in the morning and I pushed it hard, I went home, I slept for 3 more hours and I rested. And so, because I'm going to be working in events and stuff tonight with our church until 9:00. So it doesn't make you superhuman, but you would be amazed what you feel like when you're a normal human from where you are now. So that's been, that gets some at the question. So 40 pounds difference. I'm 4 inches down in my waist.
Yeah.
I'm almost 3 sizes down fully in shirts. And I'll be honest, head and body and all that has really subsided. So like, when you get big, the bigger you get and the more stretch marks you have. And when you're at your big part, you see those stretch marks. So crazy thing was in high school, I had some stretch marks just because I had bigger muscle.
Yeah.
But some stretch marks here and then on my stomach, they've almost disappeared because they've stopped being pulled. So even though they're there, they're not. So that's a kind of a cool indicator that you get when you're losing a lot of weight, that you start not seeing stuff like that. I've also stopped. I mean, I don't know if it's a thing, if you call it just acne or adult acne or whatever, but I have a lot less. When you change your food, it shifts like how splotchy and how infected
adult
your face
onset
gets.
Acne. Goodness.
That's what it feels like. Now, I don't know if that is, but I would just say, there's the, is that a real thing?
It was a non-scale victory for me. Yes. Yes.
I don't want to sound like I couldn't remember the Latin term for it, but it's post hoc ergo something hoc, but it means because of what's happened, this has happened. This is now happening. And it's a fallacy that says just because something came after something else doesn't mean that it was causation. But I will tell you that there is so much of what I was, so many things that immediately changed as soon as that happened, that I would say that it's been the most life-changing shift that's helped me get where I needed to go. So
that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
So I've loved it.
Yeah. That's good. Well, Ian, man, I appreciate you coming back and just being honest about this, because this is the part of the journey that people need to hear and understand. The beginning can be exciting. The first few weeks can bring a lot of changes and struggles, but 6 months in, we get to tell the real story of real life that's happening. Family happens, ministry happens, and even stalls happen. And the question becomes,
in 6 more months, I'll be 40 pounds less. So we'll have another 40
We'll have to check back with you. But the question becomes,
yeah.
No, you're good. But the question becomes is, are we only chasing a number, or are we truly chasing after a better lifestyle and a better version of ourselves?
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to save the discussion about the scale for the end, because numbers matter, but it's not the whole story. Feeling better, being more present, showing up for your family is really where it's at and where it matters. Even when the excitement wears off, all of those things are there and those matter the most. So if you enjoyed this conversation with Ian, be sure to like it and share it with someone who's needing to see the story from the beginning of 3 weeks in all the way to 6 months in, and sharing our journey for 3+ years in. And so, Ian, I do want to ask you, how can our viewers reach you if they want to hear more about your story?
Oh, man. They can reach me at iandunaway.com. You can fill out I have a, it says request, but I'll get your message in that. You can email me at ian@g6allies.com.
And season 3 of Shaping Student Ministry.
It's coming out. Listen, you can find us on shapingstudentministry.com and on all of we're on Facebook, social media, but you'll see all those posts coming out soon. And on YouTube, it's the exact same thing. Shaping Student Ministry is our channel. Jordan is one of our hosts now. We've added a third host because he's that good. And so we're excited to be able to do that.
Because my plate wasn't full enough.
That's 100% right. But we're distributing the plate. So,
right,
but I'd absolutely, if you want to talk about this, even if you want to talk about how physical health impacts your ministry or how it's helped me, or anything in
Yeah.
between, man. That's what we do.
Which
That's
will
our
be an
bread and butter.
episode of Shaping Sweet and Ministry.
We'll cross over all day long. So,
Yes, yes. All
man,
right.
but
So my last question for you, Ian, is what advice would you give someone that's wanting to start today?
man, I just do it. I would. You need to. I think this has to do with scripture or with your spiritual condition, but it applies. So much of scripture applies in every condition because God created my body just like He created my soul.
Yes.
Jesus talks about the gospel, and he says the gospel is like the good news is like a man who decides to build a tower, and he sets down and he doesn't consider what is required, and so he ends up building half of a tower, and he's a joke to everyone else. He said, so sit down and count the cost. The point was that following Jesus is not some emotional goobery that we do where we go, I just feel really good, so I'm going to follow. So much of our culture gets like that. You need to. Jesus says to follow me is to die to yourself. But I would tell you that same logic needs to fit about every. If that was the logic we took with every decision we made, it would profoundly impact the success rate of what we choose to do because we're really good starters. We're just really bad finishers. So I would sit down, do the math, watch some of Jordan's videos. I know you can comment on his videos, watch what you're doing, and just say, how is this going to impact my food budget? What's going to be my plan for going forward? How am I going to stick to it? And then once you know, do it. Because the thing that will cause you to miss out on all the blessings and the good things about switching is when you quit multiple times and just decide something isn't worth it, but you never actually did it for long enough to make a difference. So I would just count the costs and do it. I think it's absolutely worth it. And you'll feel, if you feel bad, you'll feel better. If you do want to lose some weight and you want to feel better, because weight weighs down on you, carries on you literally. I mean, it's hard. And you say, I want to do something to feel better. Do it. Just count the costs, make your plan. Doesn't have to be a complicated plan, and then just do it.
That's good. It's good. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you being here with us today. And guys, if you want to see more of this carnivore journey, hit that subscribe button because there's a whole lot more steaks to eat and a whole lot more stories to tell. And until next time, guys, go forth and carnivore.